Guys, what are some red flags to look out for if you're in your 20s or your 30s right now in terms of money? Now, I'm going to give you 13 things to watch out for. And if you keep these things in check and under your control, you can better secure your financial future and reach financial freedom. I want you to stay tuned for number 13. If you don't do number 13 right, numbers 1 through 12 really don't matter a whole lot. So let's jump into it. The very first red flag that you got to watch out for is that if you have low paying skills and you have no plans to get higher paying skills, that's a red flag, because it tells me that if you don't have any plans to increase your skills, your skill development, your skill level, your value that you bring to the marketplace, the job marketplace, you're going to be right where you are today in 10, 15 years with money. Your skills, your skill level, and your skill development must outpace inflation. If inflation is going up at 2% every year, your skill level should be making your salary go up 3 and 4 and 5 and 10% every year. The second red flag is the credit card trap. It's easy to get into the credit card trap in your 20s and 30s. One, you may not make enough money, so you finance some of your living with a credit card. But another reason is that everybody's using credit cards. It's not like it was 30 years ago when credit cards was more rare, right? Today, everybody's got a credit card. You got to be extremely, extremely disciplined in order to use credit cards. Now, the third red flag you got to watch out for is holding on to student loans way too long. Look, I did a video not long ago about the fact that I had student loans for 31 years. So I've been there, I've done that. You do not want to hold on to student loans too long. As soon as you can, pay them off, and I would not wait for the government to pay them off, because who knows if that government program to pay off student loans is going to be there and be active for you. And so I wouldn't sit around and wait on it. Get rid of your student loans. As a matter of fact, get rid of all loans and debt on anything that goes down in value and it's not increasing in value. Student loans falls in there. Get rid of them as soon as possible. Look, debt on stuff going down is always a red flag. Now, the fourth red flag you got to watch out for in your 20s and 30s, financial mistake, is the shopping addiction. The ease at which it is to punch 2 buttons and have something delivered to your door in 20 minutes. Punch 2 buttons and have something delivered to your door tomorrow through Amazon. Listen, Amazon and shopping addictions are real. So it's a red flag if you shop too much and you shop to your detriment. Now, the fifth red flag is you just are in the habit of not keeping enough cash on hand. No cash on hand really equates to an ultimate loan from your 401k, a home equity line of credit, or a refinancing of your house to pull money out for an emergency, right? My point is this. Don't be in the habit of robbing Peter to pay Paul, all because you don't have cash on hand. Have cash. We call it an emergency fund. We usually say the best way is to have 3 to 6 months of your monthly needs set aside in case something goes wrong in cash. And if you don't keep enough cash on hand, that's a red flag. Now, the sixth red flag in your 20s and 30s you got to be careful for, financial mistake that you want to avoid, is you should be investing for your future. Putting aside money into the real estate market, into the stock market to make money for down the road, but you're not investing. That's a red flag. That's a huge red flag. And a lot of people don't do that because of fear, right? You have a fear of real estate or you have a fear of the stock market. Listen, that's a red flag. Because listen, if you don't invest no money today, you're not going to have any money in 10 years. So it's a red flag. Now, number 7, the 7th red flag is investing too little. If you are at a job right now in your 20s and 30s and you're only putting aside 3% of your money to your investments for your future, towards your 401k or your 403b, that ain't enough. It's a red flag. And it's a financial mistake that you don't want to make, because what's going to happen is you're going to look up in 10, 15, 20 years and you're going to have $75,000 invested in growing in an account somewhere in your 401k, 403b, but you should have had $200,000, but you missed all the gains because you was only putting in 3%. You wasn't sacrificing enough today to make a dent in tomorrow. You wasn't sacrificing enough today to really see your money grow exponentially 10, 15, 20 years down the road. So it's a red flag if you invest too little. Now, let me say this. Any money invested is better than no money. But I'm saying if you cannot find a way to stretch yourself into 10, 15, 20% to invest today in your 20s and 30s, you're going to find yourself struggling more down the road in your 50s and 60s. Why? Because the greatest thing you have right now in your 20s and 30s is time. Time is what's going to make your investments today triple somebody who's probably putting in the same amount who's in their 40s and 50s. If you're 25 years old and you're dropping 15 or 20% of your money, you've given that money a much longer stretch of time to actually grow, which means when you get to be 50, 60 years old, your money is going to be huge as compared to waiting until you're in your 40s and 50s to try to catch up. So if you're only investing a small amount right now, that's a red flag. Now, the 8th red flag is you refuse to explore alternative living situations. In other words, your biggest expense that you pay every single month for most people is housing. If you just totally dismiss the idea of finding a different alternative to living so that you can save and invest more money, that's a red flag. Look, we know that immigrants come to America all the time, and they are willing to live 5, 10, 15 people to a house. One person buys a house, everybody lives in the house until they get themselves together, and then they move out accordingly, right? But in America, we have this thing where we don't like our cousin, so we don't want to live with our cousin. We'd rather struggle alone than build together. So we end up paying like $3,000 a month for an apartment, tiny little apartment, when we could be living with 3 or 4 roommates and paying about $500, $600 a month, or we could be living with a cousin, a parent, or whoever. If you totally just dismiss the possibility of having an alternative type of shelter where you might be living with other people, where you can save some money and not spend so much on your house or your apartment, what have you, that's a red flag. You're totally dismissing the notion of saving money on the thing that most people spend most of their money on. Look, don't be too proud to move back home. Now, the 9th red flag in your 20s and 30s is believing and feeling like you must constantly finance cars and actually have a car payment. Financing cars, something going down in value, is so normal in America that most people don't realize it's a mistake and they don't want to admit or understand that it's a mistake. It's just something we do. A lot of people do. If you believe in your heart of hearts that you got to have a top-notch car, and the only way you can get that top-notch car is to have a car payment, if you believe that, that's a red flag. Now, the 10th red flag is basically this. You find yourself constantly hanging around and being around the wrong people. Look, hanging around the wrong people, having the wrong set of friends that are around you and influencing you is time wasted. It's time that could be better spent doing something else, something more productive. But a lot of people in their 20s and 30s don't understand the damage that the wrong people can do around them. But I guarantee you guys, if you surround yourself by the right people, the right company, the right friends, the right network, the right associates, your personal finance will benefit from that. But if you spend your 20s and 30s insisting on hanging around the wrong people, that's a red flag. And it's really a financial mistake that you don't recognize and probably won't realize until you get older. Now, the 11th red flag that you got to watch out for in your 20s and 30s is lifestyle creep or lifestyle inflation, however you want to word it. Lifestyle creep basically means when you make more, you automatically spend more. If you can avoid that financial mistake, you're going to be fine. So another way of looking at that is when you have income and you have expenses, there should be a cushion between them. Your income is $3,000 a month. Your expenses should be $2,500 a month. As your income goes up, if you can find a way to keep your expenses about the same or nearly the same, other than inflation, you're going to be better off because now you have a bigger cushion of money to do other stuff with, namely investing. But if you feel the need every time you make more money to spend more money, that's a red flag because it says you don't have the discipline to keep your expenses the same. And if you don't have the discipline to keep your expenses down and low, that's a red flag if you give in to lifestyle creep. The 12th red flag is that you're just not organized with your money. You don't do a budget. You don't track your income and your expenses. You don't know or don't track your net worth a couple of times a year. Guys, the unorganized person is usually the most stressed out person. The unorganized person is usually the person that has the most anxiety. Why? Because, well, when you're unorganized, you feel a lack of control. And when you feel a lack of control, that's where the stress comes in. If you are at the point in your 20s and 30s where you cannot seem to get organized with money, that's a red flag. Now, I ask you to stick around for number 13 because number 13 is the most important thing on the list. If you don't do number 13 right, nothing else matters. The 13th red flag, if you're in your 20s and 30s, is that You don't prioritize learning and understanding and managing money. See, guys, the people that have the most money in their 40s and 50s are the people that prioritized understanding and learning about money in their 20s and 30s. The people that have the most money in their 50s and 60s are the people who focused on money in their 20s and 30s. Look, everybody wants more money, but a lot of people don't want to take the time, the effort, the energy to focus on the money, to learn about the money, to understand the habits and the things that it takes for them to do to manage the money better. See, guys, anything that you mismanage, you lose. And anything that you manage well will grow. So if you learn to understand money, to manage money well, and you do that by focusing on money in your 20s and 30s, you're going to be much better off as you get older with money. The number one skill that you need to be good with money is good, solid money management. How do you get good, solid money management? By learning about money and focusing on money and spending energy understanding money. If you don't do that in your 20s and 30s, that's a red flag. So there you have it, guys. That's the 13 red flags that you need to avoid in your 20s and 30s. Those are financial mistakes that you want to stay away from. If you've made some mistakes in the past and you want to drop a piece of advice in the comment section below, please do that, guys. These comments below should be full of advice to people in their 20s and 30s about financial mistakes to avoid. So if you can, drop that comment below, smash the like button, and as always, guys, share this video with someone who you know. And check out this video right here for more bad habits with money that you need to avoid and watch out for. Hey, the best person who's going to take care of the old you is the young you. Guys, take good care of yourself and take care of other people. Until the next video, peace.